Hi everybody, it's Peter Dunham's Griniflix and Adventure 8. It's finally happened. Off to Central Australia, leaving Sydney, and it's pretty wet right now. Got my new travel bag, my pink design new travel bag. My Adventure 8 bag that goes everywhere. Alright, well the weather's supposed to be good in Alice Springs, so hopefully we'll be able to have a good 2-week adventure of photography, visiting some of the remote areas of Central Australia. Alright, on to Eyre Springs. Yippee! Oh, I made it to Alice Springs and I'm staying at the National Transport Museum Hall of Fame. Also integrated in this whole museum is the Ghan Railway Museum. This is one of the old Ghan, well, one of the old carriages, I suppose, that would have gone up and down the old Ghan Railway. There'll be lots of other little memorabilia here. Being a transport museum, there's all sorts of interesting things that are around here. Yeah, so all sorts of trucks. These trucks have been either donated or they've been left here or they've been collected by many people that have worked here in the past, and they're scattered all over the place. There's major exhibitions in the main hallway, so most of those, well, many of those are restored. Others still need a lot of tender loving care, and then these are a bunch out in the paddock. You can actually camp here as well, and I'm actually camping here down there somewhere. But I'm hoping to get some shots tonight. Theoretically the moon should be disappearing and we should have all sorts of interesting relics to photograph, together with the night skies, the Milky Way somewhere, and however the sunset will appear. My first night bush camping, yippee! And what a great location. So one of the first things we need to do is get a fire going, campfire. That gets rid of all the flies. So I've got a good location here. It's near the Ghan Railway, beautiful clouds everywhere. So as the sun sets over the horizon, we should get a good sunset. That's the theory anyway. I'm not too far from the road, which means I can get back onto the main track again, and I'll be heading past Kwabena tomorrow to restock with some items as well. It's a bit of a bugger when you're coming down from Alice Springs, because you've got to have to cross the South Australian border. There's always fruit and veg quarantine there, so there's no point stocking up in Alice Springs. Once you cross the border, so Marla is really the first place where you can actually stock up with some fruit and veg. There's going to be much there, but anyway, that's what it is. I'm using two cameras. I'm using the Leica M11 and also the Nikon D500. And the lenses, the Nikon D500's got a, I think 10 to 24, that's it, 10 to 24 zoom DX lens. And I've also got a Tamron 150 to 600 zoom. The Leica M11, three lenses I'm using with me, that I've got with me. 35 f1.4, the floating lens element version. It's the latest version basically, 1.4. And I've got a the 21mm f1.4, so hoping to get some night skies tonight as well. There's a bit of cloud around, so I'm not quite sure what we're going to get. And also the 90mm f2 Summilux Apple. Now the winds change, it always changes. Okay, so that's the action plan. I've got the drone as well, the Mavic 2 Pro. I might put it up just to get some perspective of where I am. Okay. The best thing about bush camping in Australian conditions is, when you're allowed that is to have a campfire. Best thing. Keeps you warm, keeps the flies off. And it's entertaining to say the least. For navigation I'm using the InReach Explorer, and that allows anyone to track me on my journey, which is great. Just charging it up right now. Back to my watch. Charging it up as well, using my lithium power station here by iTech World. And portable power stations like this one. It makes a big difference because you're going to have power where you want it, and you just move it around and charge up whatever you need. There's electrical everywhere. I've got a little wire here as well, which I think is power to the tent. Got my circuit boards, fuse box. All right, time for coffee. How we're doing here? It's bubbling away. Today, I might get as far as William Creek, which is the town, or town. It's a pub, a roadhouse, a pub. It's an airstrip as well, and it's the closest pub to Lake Eyre, and Lake Eyre is supposed to have water in it right now. The further south we're getting, the more flies we're getting as well, and I think the further east I'll go, there'll be flies as well. A lot of wet weather around the east coast of Australia. The dry weather's here. Temperatures are really mild, so it's really nice. about 32 or 33 degrees during the day, Celsius, and down at night to about 18, 19. Yes, well, there's big distances to cover in Australia. Unlike Europe, here you have to drive for many kilometres in Central Australia before you actually get to anything. So I'm still 153 kilometres from Kwabena. I left county side about 10 o'clock this morning, and it's been 1.5 hours drive. Thereabouts so far. Probably around 2 hours to go to get to Kwabena. Good time to have lunch and get some supplies. A bit of a drive this afternoon to get to William Creek. It's another 300 or 400 kilometres of dirt road. Whether I get there tonight, I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, back to driving. Okay, well, I popped into Kwabena, took a few photographs, bought some supplies, filled up with fuel, and now we're heading out to William Creek, and the dirt roads have started. So the first 800 kilometres were sealed roads from Alice Springs. Now the next 2,000 to 3,000 kilometres, probably 2,000 kilometres, will be dirt road. So I always enjoy the dirt road. It requires a higher level of concentration. Keep your wits about it, and cruising speed usually around the 80 kilometre mark. The road conditions are pretty good right now. Yeah, clear skies, so it could be another clear night for night sky photography tonight. Changing the camera angle here, hopefully that's going to be better. It's always a bit of a challenge trying to work out how to position the camera so that I can capture dialogue, but then also spin around and see what's going on the road. Typical in Australian conditions, just add water and then all of a sudden you get a whole bunch of life. So I had to take a bypass track that they've built. Normally the track would be going along this salt pan, but with the heavy rainfalls the road's become impassable. But that's brought in a whole bunch of wildlife, so I'll try and take a few shots, see how far I can get out here. I know from past experience, you start walking along these clay pans and you can start to sink into it quite quickly. Well, it's starting to get a bit dodgy here. I won't be going out there. I'll definitely sink there. But I'll try and take some shots around here. been a few floods around here over the last few months. That's the reason why I had to sort of cancel my trip earlier. I guess they've built a bypass road to get past the floods. I found myself a camp spot today. We're going to Lake Eyre, also known as Kati Chanda. So it's about 60 kilometers to my destination along this dirt track. Hopefully it won't be too rough, I'll be able to get there. No one around, it's been very quiet. Very little traffic. I guess with the floods it scared everyone away, then COVID hit South Australia, that scared everyone away as well. High clearance, all vehicle drive only, so that's four-wheel drive only for this track. Dry weather road only. All these warning signs around the place. Going through someone's property here, some cows around the place, bulls. So we're at 15 meters above sea level right now, and we're heading down, and we'll be heading down below sea level. Can't really see with the GoPro, but in the distance there's water. That's where we're going. We're at minus 17 meters. We're 17 meters below sea level right now. And in this very unusual landscape, to say the least. Oh, high risk danger to vehicle, lake surface, soft, treacherous vehicle prohibited. Yes, so don't go on the lake. Your car will sink in it. Alright. Campground. Okay, this is where I camp. And I guess I'll have to go for a walk later on. Okay, well. I've arrived at Lake Eyre, and I've snapped off a couple of shots with the Leica M11 with the 90mm lens. Might be able to stitch a couple of shots together to give a panorama as well. It's really windy, and I've managed to set up a tent here out of the wind, out of a little bit of a sand dune in Lake Eyre. And this is my setup. There's no fire, and I guess it's really windy anyway, so. Sunrise at Lake Eyre. How much of this you can hear, I'm not sure, because it's windy. It's been windy all the time since we got here last night, since I got here last night. I went out onto the lake here last night and got some sunsets, which is fantastic. And now, not entirely sure what the sunrise is going to do. No real features as such, other than a salt pan, a huge lake. I was expecting a lot more water before the rainfalls coming across Australia, coming from the west. But I guess what I've seen over the years is that it's rain up north, Queensland, when it's been thumping down rain for 6 months, and then all the water flows down from the mountains, Great Dividing Range, or inland through the Diamantina channels up north, and eventually it all flows down into Lake Eyre, and then Lake Eyre actually does fill up quite a bit. And that's when all the fish life start to breed. Suddenly they just appear everywhere, and then birds come in from every direction. So you know when it's in flood because the fish and the birds arrive. There are no fish. Well, I can't see. It's too shallow for fish. But there's definitely no birds, so if there's no birds, there's no fish. And the water levels are really quite low still. In flood, this would be all underwater, I suspect. But there is a little bit of water out there, so we'll walk out there. The ground is okay to walk on. I'm needing some footsteps. And no doubt when I get closer to the water here, I'll be making more of an imprint. The sun should rise in about 20 minutes, so I'll get some of that as well. So I've been using the Leica M11 with the 90mm lens, portrait lens, but it's a landscape lens now. And let's see what I can get. Great formations in the salt. So this is actually created by the wind, I've noticed. The water gets pushed up and then creates all these little waveforms and shapes. So I'm guessing that the water's receding right now. Not enough water going into it. Well, there's no water coming from the north, or maybe there is, but anyway, it hasn't arrived yet. All right, out we go. Yeah, the wind makes it a bit chilly. Okay. Well, that's what's left of a chick. So, during when the water does come up, a lot of birds arrive, but a lot of chicks don't survive necessarily. Yeah, well, if I stay out here too long, I'll be looking like that, I reckon. Having said, I said no birds, well, there are some seagulls here. So we're 2,000 kilometers inland from the sea. 2,000 kilometers, and there's seagulls out here. They fly some distance. Alright, I've reached landfall. Look at this, a rock outcrop. And there's the water's edge there. So I've got a safe landing here. I'm at least 100 to 200, or 10 to 20 centimeters above Lake Eyre. And Lake Eyre is probably around this point here, maybe 20, 25, 30 meters below sea level right now. Okay, the sun is coming up very quickly. I need to get into some deeper water so I can get the sun in the reflection. So I'm going barefoot. standing in Lake Eyre. Water as far as I can see. I'll find some stats for Lake Eyre and I'll show them in the video as well. If I walked another kilometre in that direction, I'd probably be, I'd say, knee deep in water. So what are we? We're about 10 centimetres deep right now. But I won't go too far. There's enough to go back as well. I've left my shoes on that island of rock. The ground's getting a bit muddy, so I'm sinking into the mud. Probably about 5 centimetres of mud, I'd say. 5 centimetres of water, 5 centimetres of mud right now. It's quite amazing, isn't it? Being out here in Central Australia all by myself. Oh well, it's all fun, isn't it? Getting out here, night skies, big open spaces. I guess you have to come to Australia for that. Very hard to find big open spaces and have it to yourself anywhere else in the world. Antarctica, maybe. Yes. I have to remind myself I am in Australia, which means it doesn't matter where you are in Australia, there are snakes. Here's evidence. A snake has shedded its skin. That is a ground snake. That's one of the most deadliest snakes in the world. And I'm barefoot. Well, hopefully it's still resting right now, but in the morning it does come. The snakes do come out to get the morning sun, to get the energy to get on with the day. So now you gotta really, the snakes may will be coming out at this time of day. Alright. Keep an eye out for what's going on. Just a reminder, Central Australia can be quite remote. Where I stay tonight, I'm not entirely sure at this stage. I guess we'll see how we track for time. It'd be nice to get a fire going again, that's always more entertaining. We will see. any opportunity to stop and have a break. Coming down from William Creek, I'm actually following the old Ghan railway track. The track's been pulled up, but there's a bunch of old dwellings left behind. And and this is a railway siding. This is called Margaret Siding. So what's left of this old building. Track used to be, going straight down as far as you can see, and then if you look down this way, it goes as far as you can see also, all the way down there. Alright, well, I'm at Lake Eyre South, quite a bit of water in here. I was surprised. Alright, I'm going to take a couple of shots with my super telephoto. There's time for some adventure. Always time for some adventure. Okay, let's have a look what the map is doing here. Now, the route I'm taking, okay, let's zoom out right now so you can see where we are. Alright, there's Australia, there's Alice Springs. I've sort of spent the last 5 days just to get down here around Lake Eyre, and that's where I am right now. And let's just zoom in, and this is the track that I'm taking back to Sydney. But you can see there's a bit of a dog leg here, and I'm following the Strzelecki track going up, but it's the newer Strzelecki track, but there is an old Strzelecki Creek track, which is this one here, which I've never done before, and I sort of discovered it just now. And the idea is to follow this route up along the creek, and eventually it does lead up to the other Strzelecki track here, so this is a new section I haven't done before along the creek here, Strzelecki Creek. And like always with new sections, you never know what to expect. So this is what we got so far. There is a defined track. It's been dry for a while. I'm hoping that it's not going to be boggy in any way, and I haven't my tires are still fully inflated, so I do have an option to let the tires down if for some reason it does get sandy, but I can just do 4-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive depending on the situation. Alright, let's continue on with the journey. been on this track since the heavy rainfalls, so I'm just trying to follow the old track. There are no tyre tracks, so we'll just have to take it easy, I suppose. Got lots of fuel, so in the worst case scenario, as long as I don't get bogged, I can actually reverse, turn around and go back. Alright. The dodgy sections are the ones where there's a lot of grass around. You can't actually see where the earth is starting to break up. You don't know how soft it is underneath. Well, this is what you dream of, is out in the open, out in the bush, Central Australia. So, it's Leaky Creek track. So there are no tracks. Yes, there is a defined track when the track is defined. It's on the map. So, but you can see that I'm creating the first tyre tracks. But it's nice temperatures. Following the creek means there should be lots of bird life around here. It should be a nice place to stop at lunch somewhere after that. Everything seems to be pretty good. Doesn't seem to be any moisture around the place in the grassy sections. I was concerned that it would be a bit muddy. It seems to be okay right now. Exercise, sitting down in the car all the time. It's nice to get out, move, take some shots. Right, well, it's just a matter of time before making the decision to let the tyres down, because it's only going to get sandier, I suspect, in some of these in this track. And rather than getting bogged and getting the sand ladders out and everything, I'll just let the tyres down. So right now I'm running really hard pressure, 46 I think pounds pressure in the back tyres. 36 in the front. I'll be letting the back down to about 25 and the front down to about 20, and also the trailer tyres down to about 20 also. It makes it much easier this way. I get 4 tyres down relatively quickly, and then just a tyre gauge, see what pressure we have. So once the tyre is covering a large area like that, then I know that it won't be digging into the sand. Okay, let's see what pressure we got on this. Yeah, so we've got about 25 pounds there, so that's good. Okay, well, I've let the tyres down to quite low pressures, which would make the going easier, I think, now. That was a sandy section, got through that quite easily. And now we'll continue on. A bit hard to spot the track sometimes, like right now. But you can still make it out, I think. Yes, well, I guess Outback four-wheel driving, Central Australia, it's all about discovering new tracks. There's a lot of old tracks that have been, you know, put down by explorers over the last couple hundred years. And to discover one is great. Normally they are overgrown, and it is important to get out and do these old tracks, because there's no one looking after it. It's only the people that are interested in four-wheel driving and off-road touring that go exploring these old tracks and then use them. And using them, it means that they, you know, stick to the track, and that way you don't forming new tracks, but it makes the track firm. It gives it more definition. So next time you can, you know, find it again. And it does take you to spectacular locations for camping and really enjoying the outdoors. A bit scary when you go from the sand to the black dirt here. It seems to be pretty crusty, so I'm not sinking in it, which is good. I think it's pretty dry, so I'm not too concerned. I'm not sure whether it goes through there or the old mud track there, but I went for a walk across the other side, and there is another more defined track on the other side, so I'm going to just reverse and go across the creek here and then to the other side and hopefully join up with the track again. So this is typical of the Simpson Desert region, where you have parallel sand dunes, and between the sand dunes is where the salt flats or the creeks or the way the river flows, creeks flow, water flows. All this desert area is fed by water from Queensland, and it all filters through and flows down between the sand dunes. So when it does rain up north, and it's been raining for a year, then the water eventually does come to flow down here and makes the whole area impassable. And I've lost the track. Maybe it's up ahead still. These grassy sections, it's so hard to see where the track is. Must be time for lunch soon. Might just find a shade somewhere by a gum tree. Maybe one just here. Strategic block to keep the door open. I'm surprised, you know, after how long this Land Cruiser troop carrier, Toyota Land Cruiser troop carrier, has been around and invented, you know, 40 odd years. They never sort of worked out a way of actually stopping that door from closing under its own weight when you're on an angle. Hence the block of wood. I got it when I got the car, 2010, so I've had that same block of wood for 12 years. Bread in the fridge, it lasts longer that way. Bread. Lashings of peanut butter. I'll try not to squash a fly in here while I'm doing this. Then some cucumber on top of that. Now what I like about the cucumber on top of the peanut butter, it really, particularly if the cucumber's been in the fridge, it just gives that zest, that coldness, that extra flavor and crunch to the whole experience, you know, multi textures, and it looks good too. Looking pretty good so far? What do you reckon? All right, and the final ingredients, cheese. I'll just just use a slice of cheese here. Cheese that goes on top. So we've got peanut butter, cucumber and cheese. Put a slice on top. In these dry conditions, low humidity right now, the bread just dries out instantly. I've tried different things like cheese and peanut butter and capsicum, cheese and peanut butter and tomato, but I think cucumber gives that extra crunch, which I like. I've just been drinking water. I just find that been drinking actually a lot of water. You do dehydrate very quickly. Best invention. It took me good 10 years before I put an electric pump and tap at the back of the car, because you're always filling up with water. In the past I was just using a jerry can and just tipping it out. It's so laborious to actually do that every time. I still use jerry cans just in case the pump packs up, in which case I just take one of the water containers out and use that manually. There's a lot of bird life around here. Each one of these gum trees, I think they're called coolabah trees from memory, have birds in them, and they come in all sizes and shapes, from the tiny little finches to a bit larger budgies, and I've noticed even some doves, and there's some other unusual birds. And then you've got the birds of prey, the kites and the hawks, that every now and again fly around looking for lunch also. And then everyone goes quiet, all the trees go quiet. Trying to photograph the little birds is really hard because they move so quickly. That's their first line of defense, I suppose. And being tiny, they can hide amongst the branches. Trying to photograph the kites again and the hawks, they sort of gliding around, so trying to get some shots there as well. The last little thing to mention is my attire today, and that is shoes. My preferred type of shoe for outback travel is these slip-on boat shoes. So you can just slip them on, off, and slip them on. So because you always have popping in and out of the car or whatever, and so that's really good. But the other thing is, you want something closed. Don't go with thongs or those open toe sandals or open heel sandals, because everything in Australia is sharp. Doesn't matter what you touch, everything is sharp. All these little bits and pieces, all these things that dry out, there are prickles everywhere. It doesn't matter where you step, it's sharp, it's pointy, and there's nothing worse than getting something in your foot every time you take your shoe on and off, or when just walking around like this. Anything like thongs or flip-flops, open toe shoes, inevitably you kick up prickles, and yeah, it's so annoying. So annoying. And the ones I've got on right now are Timberlands, and they're just the right colour, skin tone and dirt tone, so it doesn't show up the dirt. It's all one colour, just like barefoot. Alright, enough of this, enough flies, time to pack up and move on. Well, we've got a gate, hopefully it's not locked. close it now. This is what's left over from the last storm that was here a couple of months ago, and the last rainfall. So I guess it's sort of dried out over the last, I'd say over the last month. But there's still some water around in the creeks and the creeks. Yeah, you don't want to get here because you'll just sink. Coming through that gate, man, this is cattle area, so this looks like cattle have come here for some moisture, hence all the different tracks around here. We don't need to go through the gate because I think there's a track. This track off to the right goes to the main track. So let's do that. Well, here we are. We're at the main track now. And are there any markings? No markings of any kind. There's Lecky Creek track. I'll take some photographs around here so I can find it again as far as the entrance is concerned, and there'll be a location on my map of that as well. But that was fun, that was worth it. Every trip has its highlight, so that was a highlight so far, I'd say. Okay, well we're back on the main track now, which is heading towards Cameron's Corner. Corner where 3 states meet: Queensland, South Australia and New South Wales. A lot less traffic on the roads right now. I guess people are still getting used to the idea of travelling post or with COVID, I would say. And there'd be 10% of the traffic that there's normally along these desert roads. So we've got quite a few sand dunes to cross, but it is the main track, so there's no real difficulty in this task other than staying to the left on these crests, because you never know what's coming up over the other side. Well, we arrived at Cameron's Corner. We're heading into New South Wales, so this is the first and last gate into New South Wales for me. This is a dog-proof, rabbit-proof fence that goes all the way around the border of New South Wales. It's all to protect the bilby. That's a bilby over there. Or a muck-up of one anyway. Track. It's called the middle track, and it heads to Tippabara. Well, we got wild hogs right now. 2 wild hogs. Bunch of emus here. I've stopped and they've become really curious to see who I am. And then there's a whole bunch of them here, all flocked together. Alright, bye-bye. Bye-bye. They're all going away now. Not curious anymore. Right, I'm trucking on to Tibooburra, so probably got another half an hour to go. It's past sunset, so it'll be getting dark by the time I get into Tibooburra. Oh, it's been a long day. Okay, I'll be staying at the campsite, there'll be a shower. Yippee! That'll be great. I was just thinking to myself as I was driving along, I've had a pretty good run, you know, over 2,000 kilometres so far. Probably about 1,400 kilometres of dirt roads of all sorts of conditions. And I thought, I've had a pretty good run, not a single flat. Well, I spoke too soon, well, I thought too soon. About 20 kilometres back that way. A very large rock did get flicked up underneath the car and bounced off to the side of the road. I didn't think too much of it. Looked, everything seemed to be going well, but now I've just popped out to take a photograph of a windmill. Not the most exciting shot by no means, but we have a flat tire. Yes, there she be. As they say, it's not that bad. It's only flat at the bottom. I'm gonna have to change it. Temperature's not too bad right now. About 28 degrees Celsius, sunny. There's flies everywhere. So I have to get all my equipment out and go through the whole process of changing a tire. And yes, you'll see what's needed. It's quite a bit. These are the tools I need. Some gloves, a couple of spanners. This is to clip onto the wheel. WD-40 for the wheel nuts. And a cross brace to get the wheel nuts off. This is my spare that I'll be using. The tread is pretty much all hacked up, which it tends to get hacked up very easily on Australian roads with all the stones. I need the high lift jack, that's this thing here, which I've got to tape down. All right, well, hope you enjoyed the time lapse. Let's just turn it off actually. Something happened, what happened? The SOS alarm went off on my phone for some reason that I'd set the time lapse. And it went on, yeah, I don't know why anyway, it stopped the time lapse. Bastard. Wearing my Apple Watch, you filming the slow-mo or the not slow-mo, the time lapse with the iPhone, but that the car's really heavy, you know. It's something like 3.2 tons, 3.3 tons. So when you're lifting up the back of the car where most of the weight is, that's a lot of weight. So even I don't have enough weight just by pushing down on the lever to try and lift that jack up, so I have to use all my weight, so I've got to jump up there and go down. That action of jumping up and down, which is an unusual movement, which the watch no doubt didn't recognise as my normal behaviour, triggered the alarm. I reckon that's what happened. It's the watch that triggered the alarm, and then triggered the alarm in the phone, and then try to send a message via the phone. I wouldn't be surprised if you try to send it by the watch as well, because this is GSM compatible, whatever. It's got its own chip in there. And there's no mobile reception out there. So after I finished changing the tyre, I got all these messages on my phone saying try to send the location, send the message. My wife automatically sent a text message in an event that I fall over or there's an emergency or something. I'm not responding. So that message was there. So I couldn't send another message because there's no mobile reception out here. It won't be out till I get to Wenaring, which is a little station town of one general store, a police station, and a couple of dwellings. And I know there's a Telstra mobile tower there, so there will be reception. So there'll be a flood of messages going to and fro. Plus one that says cancel, disregard, just a flat tire. Yeah, all right.